Exactly.
Work it. All right. Good evening and welcome. You are tuned in and watching the Zone Blitz. This is the weekly Tuesday night webcast produced by NFL Female. I am Sharona. You can follow me on Twitter at Sports by Sharona. Be sure to jump on our website, www.nflfemale.com, and check out all the latest and greatest articles by all of our women we cover all 32 teams. I'm joined, as always, by my girl, Sonja. Sonja, how are you?
I am doing great, great, great. I am excited to be talking to you after the draft and just be talking draft in general. Uh-oh, careful there, Reggie. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. Yay! Woo! So I'm excited to talk some draft tonight, some draft wrap-up, and we've got two great people along with us today to help talk. By the way, I'm Sonja. I'm the official fan reporter for NFL Female for the Detroit Lions. You can follow me along on Twitter at mom2, 3RN. And just in case you're watching, and earlier this afternoon I tweeted out something to help my daughter with her homework. Appreciate all those who helped us. Thanks. Now, we will start with Reggie. Reggie, why don't you tell everybody hi, where you are from, all that good stuff. Thanks for joining us again.
Of course, always a pleasure. You know that, ladies. I'm from Memphis. I'm a Penn State and Nittany Lion, and I get paid to pay attention to football. So follow me on Twitter at rwalk13, RWALK13. I'm on there a lot. I will respond. We can get into a little competitive banter, if you will. But no profanity. No profanity. We don't do that here.
Because that's how classy Reggie is. Reggie's classy, y'all. And we have our other distinguished panelist, Michelle. Michelle, why don't you tell us who you are, where you're from, all that good stuff.
I am Michelle, official fan reporter for the Dallas Cowboys at NFLfemale.com. I live in Charlotte, originally from the MIA, and you can find me on Twitter at the Sports Jinks.
Fantastic. And, Michelle just talks about any sport. Big fan of WNBA. I love that. Any sports you want, Michelle will talk to you about it because that's how awesome she is.
I gotta interrupt.
Okay,
Michelle,
go ahead. What?
Why y'all tell me that?
What?
Does she live in Charlotte?
I know. For some reason, I thought you lived in Florida, Michelle.
That's where I'm from.
I blame
But
Sonja.
I think, Reggie, you're in Charlotte too, right?
Correct.
All right.
I know so many Charlotte peeps. It's kind of weird in a way.
No, that's just
it's great.
living.
It's great, but yeah.
Very, very cool, very cool. All right, well, let's get started. It was, this past weekend was the draft. I, for one, loved it, but that's just me. Everybody tell me how your draft was. We will start with Reggie. Reggie, tell me how the draft was for you.
I look at it sort of a weird way, but I thought the draft was a lot of safety and a lot of I'm going to pick a good character guy at a need position on my board, and that's it. I didn't think a lot of teams took a lot of chances. I didn't think a lot of teams, were really overly aggressive in getting a certain guy. A lot of teams, we see a lot of trades, obviously. I feel like a lot of teams just sort of let certain players fall to them and let whatever previous teams allowed to happen. They just let it dictate. There weren't a lot of teams that, if you will, took control of the draft and drove the bus themselves throughout the entire 7 rounds.
Okay. I mean, I see what you're saying because it was, I don't know. I thought there were going to be a little bit more trading going on and stuff like that, but then maybe that was just me being a wishful thinker and just wanting something to go down. But I see what you're saying. It was like a lot of character guys that were going, especially I saw in the draft by the Browns, because it was kind of funny because everybody was an academic All-American.
It's amazing how they look for those, isn't it?
And Reggie just leaves us. It happens. So, Michelle,
Just
what
got up and walked away.
I know. I guess we're just so boring.
I was trying to the lighting, and I made it worse.
That's okay. Michelle, what did you think about the draft?
I think I kind of agree with Reggie. I think everybody played it safe, but then again, at certain positions, you had a very deep draft, and so, I mean, you can afford to sit and wait because there were so many available for you. You know, for instance, you know, if you wanted a wide receiver, there were plenty. If you wanted a running back, there were plenty. There were a lot of defensive linemen, defensive players there, so you didn't have to do all of the jockeying because there were so many good players available to you to have. And of course, I'm just happy that, you know, sometimes things just fall to you. Some players fall to you, and you have to grab them when you got a chance. Got to take a chance sometime.
Exactly. Are you talking about, oh, I don't know, what's his name, Randy Gregory?
Yeah, it's so funny because I had a friend who was in Chicago, and so we were texting, and we were talking about Gregory on day one, and I was like, we don't need to pick him on day one. And so that morning, on the next day, I said, now, Gregory is there when we pick at 60. We better grab him. And he was like, for sure. And so it just happened that way that he was there because if he wasn't, you know, I was hoping we would get him below who the Giants end up getting from UCLA. I can't pronounce his name, so I just call him Double O.
Cool. But I agree with you. I thought the value of that pick of Randy Gregory, and also I think a lot of people don't realize this, but you can finagle more with a contract in terms of incentives and those types of things with a player picked in the second, third round, and so on, as opposed to being able to do as much with first-round picks. A lot of those contracts are a lot more structured tightly, so to be able to get him at 6 kind of allowed them a little more flexibility with the contract as well.
Absolutely, and we need that, being that we're always over the cap, and we have to figure out ways. So we need
it. Yes, very good. Now, how disappointed were you that, oh gosh, hang on, what am I going to say? I forget. It just left me that quickly. Too much Cinco de Mayo, maybe. Sharona, tell me your thoughts about the draft.
Well, I don't know that I entirely agree that certainly some teams did play it safer than others. You know, there were the number one pick in the 2015 NFL draft was a guy that came with you know, enough baggage for me to pack to go on a super cruise. And so, you know, some team it's interesting because I had a chance to actually talk to Randy Gregory and ask him about, you know, some of the things that, you know, that were going on. He was very. I have no problem believing the reports that indicated that he was extremely upfront and open and honest with these teams, because he definitely came across that way with, you know, with us, getting an opportunity to talk to him, but I thought that the first round maybe only had one trade, right? But it did seem like on day 2 there were a little bit more trades going on. It was kind of weird for me because I'm a big draftnik and have always followed the draft, but you know, because I was there and trying to juggle a multitude of things, I didn't get to keep up with it nearly as much as I might want to. But yeah, I mean, I thought that especially on day 1, there weren't as many surprises. it was kind of a surprise to me for the Broncos to trade up and draft Shane Ray. Not that Shane Ray's not a great player, but that one surprised me a little bit. I didn't particularly care for it because I think that I said this morning. I think that your successful teams sit back and let the draft come to them. But yeah, I thought that overall, I thought Chicago did a great job putting it on. I thought it was a big success for the league's willingness to move the draft around and put it in places other than New York.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Bears fans, I'm sure, loved it. Loved it because, well,
they were loud and proud.
Yes, they were. As well, you would expect them to be, those crazy people. But I'm hating on my NFC North fan, but that's okay. But from my perspective, at least from the Lions, I pretty much kind of enjoyed their draft. I think they did a really good job. I liked the trade with Denver to trade back because I thought if they were going to do anything, that they should at least trade back in that, in that respect.
Mm-hmm. And they still got their guy.
Yeah, and they still got their guy. And Lake and Tomlinson, so far what I've seen, I like. And, I really hope that it translates on the field and that he, really does help our offensive line. That would be really, really, really good. And then getting, oh gosh, I always screw up his name, Amir Abdullah after that.
I love that one too.
That was a really smart move. That was just smart because, we knew we needed to improve the running game. And, I really thought that, going into this, that they were just going to pick like Todd Gurley right off the bat. I really thought that not that he would fall that far, but if he did, I knew for sure we were going to get him. So I'm really glad that didn't happen and that we waited till the second round to get him because I think that's probably a really good pick and a really good value pick there. So I'm excited about that. We improved the line, we improved our defense, and so I'm just overall really pleased with the Lions draft, and you don't hear that very often from Lions fans. So this was good. This was a good thing.
I thought the Quandre Diggs pick for Detroit was a great pick at that value. He's a little guy. I think he's about 5'8", 5'9", but he's bigger than that. And he's got the ability to make plays in some spots you don't expect. He has some trouble sometimes with some bigger receivers, but I think he's going to be an ideal corner for them when teams go to 3 and 4 wide receivers. He can play inside in the slot and get his hands on guys.
And that's what you love. And that's, and that's what our secondary needs is that type of cornerback, and I'm excited about it. I am very much so excited about it. Now, did you get a chance to see Mr. Tomlinson down there in Charlotte? Have you seen him? I mean, I know he was a Duke player, but I figure since you're kind of a little closer than me.
I've seen him on tape. There's two things I like about him. Well, more than two, but two main things I like about him. Anytime you play in a David Cutcliffe system, your IQ is going to be high. The second thing I like about him, and I've always said this, the number one ability of any player is availability. This kid started 52 games in his career.
Wow.
He's there, and he's going to play well because he's going to understand the scheme. I thought it was a nice, very good pick at the back end of the first round for the Detroit Lions and what they're trying to do there because you've got to keep Stafford upright if you're going to win championships. And that's something that they've had some issues with. This young guy's going to help them do that. This young guy's also going to help them create holes in the running game. He understands both sides of both parts of the offensive equation. And I think he's going to end up being a key player and really helping improve that offensive line.
Good. That makes me feel really, really good, that much better. And he just sounded like a really good kid. So I am very, 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 very excited. Now, I guess the other thing that I was wondering about in the draft was, were there a lot of good quarterbacks in that draft? I mean, should some of them have gone higher, or do you like the way that they all fell, that it all fell? I'll start with you, Reggie, since you're shaking your head.
Yeah, I would honestly say if quarterback wasn't such a need position in the NFL, the two that went 1 and 2, I don't know that they would. I think Jameis would have probably gone that high regardless.
Hmm.
But quarterback wasn't such a need. Um, I don't know that Mariota would have gone as high because I just think, and in talking to scouts and people that I know, a lot of people think he's going to be a pretty good player, but you need a quarterback. He's really good. He needs a developmental year or two. But people like him to be a pretty good player, not necessarily um, a big-time franchise guy because he's got to assimilate to the NFL game from that standpoint. But I thought Brett Hundley going in the 5th round is about where he should have gone. He looks down at the rush too much. He holds the ball too long. He makes some bad decisions when he does make a decision. Sometimes when he should throw it, he tends to run it. And when he should run it, he'll throw it or hold it. So he's got to learn some decision-making things. I thought Bryce Petty, if you look at the track record of quarterbacks, sans Robert Griffin, in those kind of systems, they tend to struggle initially in the NFL. They need a little time. So I thought the value of where he got picked was pretty good in the 4th round. So I thought teams really understood where to draft quarterbacks after the top 2 because those were clearly the 2 best players in college football. I just don't know that at least right after Jameis, I don't know that Marcus is a franchise-changing quarterback that's going to be on the level to take you to the playoffs in his 2nd year as a starter or whatever, and all of a sudden he's winning 14, 15 games and playing in the championship weekend. I don't know if he's that kind of player down the line for Tennessee.
Well, I think that he's certainly going to be the best quarterback on their roster. Whether or not you think that or not. I've got an article coming out for Pro Player Insider. Yeah, I've got an article coming out for Pro Player Insiders where I talk about this and talk about whether or not he will start immediately. I don't have any problem thinking that he's going to win that job. I mean, I think that he – and that's not anything really against Zach Mettenberger, who I think really more fits what Ken Wisenhunt wants to do, the kind of quarterback that he wants, but we're not talking about a team that is doing what it wants. We're talking about a team that has a coach and a general manager who need to win to keep their jobs. And so I do think that Marcus Mariota, even though they haven't, as far as I know, they haven't officially declared him the day 1 starter, there's going to be a competition. I think that he'll probably win out. That will he be the starter on day 1? Hard to say, maybe, but I do think that he'll be under center sooner rather than later, and I think we'll see him play very early on. So there's that.
Michelle, what about you? Did you think that there were any, that particular winners, losers in this year's draft, team-wise?
You said winners and losers about quarterbacks or just overall?
Just overall. And you can throw in quarterbacks if you want to. Doesn't matter.
I don't really have anything about the quarterbacks. I think you guys said it all. I mean, after Jameis Winston, it was a toss-up. If Tennessee didn't pick Mariota, I'm not sure where he would have fallen in the draft. Tennessee needs a quarterback, so now they have 2 young quarterbacks, and we'll see how. I thought I thought they had already said that Mariota would be the starter, but I'm sure they'll have have competition. Winner in the draft. I thought that the Jets did really good. And that Leonard Williams fell down to them. They didn't really need it, but they have a strong defense. You just add this kid to it. Todd Bowles being a new coach, defensive-minded coach, I think they addressed all of the issues. The only thing that, that they couldn't address was the quarterback because they couldn't get one of the top 2 quarterbacks. So, I mean, I know they picked up Bryce Petty, but, we're not sure if he'll start over Geno. But I thought the Jets did a really, really, really great job in their draft, and this is a division that the Patriots have dominated. And so I think, someone has to make a move. Dolphins, who did a pretty good job addressing needs, the Buffalo in the offseason done a real job. All these teams that's fighting to get past New England. So I thought the Jets did a really, really, really good job in this draft. So losers, I'm not pretty sure. Everybody pretty much played it safe. So people address most teams address what they needed, they got whatever was the best player available to them. So I can't really say it was a clear loser. I probably stopped watching though after about the second, third round. So.
Yeah, I kind of third, fourth round, I kind of started to fizzle a little bit, but that's okay. I was getting the update, so that was kind of nice too. I thought winners. Oh, go ahead, Reggie.
I think that's the mistake the league is making by breaking this draft up into 3 days. Is there's gonna be a lot more of fourth round and on, third round and on. People are just not gonna watch it.
Right.
Yeah.
They're kind of making a mistake in that regard.
Yeah, the thing about, to touch upon Michelle's point, Ken Wisenhunt did say prior to the draft that if they selected Marcus Mariota, that he would be the day one starter. They have not really, it's hard to say whether that was pre-draft smoke or what have you. Taylor Lewan came out and said that Zach Mettenberger and him would battle it out in training camp. I don't know. I guess that I guess we'll see. Probably hear more about that as time goes on. My winners and losers in the AFC. I thought that the Jets had a fantastic draft. With my best pick was them picking Leonard Williams, who I thought was the best player in the draft. I thought that he was number one atop our board. The other AFC winners, the Ravens, they all, what can you say about Ozzie Newsome, right? They always draft well. The Browns, we talked about them. I thought, they had a nice draft. The Texans and Jags both had nice drafts. The Chiefs had a really nice draft, and believe it or not, the Oakland Raiders 2 years in a row have drafted very well, so we're kind of living in bizarro world.
Yes, the Browns, I forgot. They got my man Cameron Irving. That's who I really want. But, hey, it's okay. I still think we came out ahead. We got two offensive line.
In the NFC, here are my winners. The Minnesota Vikings 2 years in a row have had a very nice draft. They were my number one pick for winner in the NFC. The Falcons did very well. I thought the Cowboys, we them boys, right, Michelle? They had a nice draft. The Lions, I had my girl Sonja's Lions in there, and the Saints. I thought the Saints had, I thought the Saints did very well, getting good players and filling some of the holes on their roster. I thought their draft was very, very good, and I thought the Washington Redskins did very well. I didn't like the Panthers draft. I didn't like the Giants, the Niners, the Seahawks. I wasn't real fond of them. Taking Frank Clark with their first selection in the second round.
I did not like that one at all. That was number one, a huge surprise. That was probably my biggest surprise of the draft, that they took Frank Clark and that they took him that high. And just, with all of his issues, very surprised.
And the interesting thing is how they tried to justify it. How these teams try to justify selecting these guys with these huge red flags is pretty interesting to me. It's obvious that they could care less. They don't want to know. They don't want the truth. They don't want to know. All these issues are largely ignored. I think NFL teams still don't care how the players that they draft, how they treat women, how they act toward women. It's very sad. The Rams, a lot of people were divided on whether the Rams had a nice draft. I liked it. Of course, I like Todd Gurley, and I liked them selecting Todd Gurley. They've traded Vic Stacy now, so I kind of liked what they did.
Stacy didn't like it.
What was that, Reggie?
Zach Stacy didn't like it.
Oh, no. Zach Stacy did not like it.
He did not like it.
And so they shipped him away.
Yeah, I think that Zach Mettenberger might have seen what happened with one Zach Stacy because there was a report that came out that said, and this had to be agent driven, that he wanted to be traded because they drafted Marcus Mariota, and then Zach Stacy came out himself. Zach Mettenberger came out himself and said that no, he didn't want to be traded, that he was not afraid of competition, and was happy where he was. So
I saw that, and I tweeted them when I saw the report that he wanted to be traded right after they drafted him. And I'm like, really? And he doesn't want to stay there and compete? I'm like, why would he want to be traded? You can compete. You got a year up on him. Plus, you're the prototype for that offense. So, I mean, who said
that was his agent. That's not Zach Mettenberger. That's not his MO. It surprised me too. I knew from the get-go that it didn't come from him. I was not surprised when Zach Mettenberger came back out and said no. I'm not, because he's not afraid of competition. He's a confident young man, and he's confident in his skill, and I think that he will give Marcus Mariota a run for his money. Unfortunately for Zach Mettenberger, he had the misfortune to be drafted in the 6th round and not in the 1st round.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Zach is going to beat him out, but Mariota's going to be the starter because they picked him number 2, so he has to play.
Well, exactly. And here's the thing. This is the interesting thing. Unfortunately, and if you read my article, you'll see this. The Titans went 2-14 for a lot of reasons last year. It didn't have a lot to do with the quarterback position. The offensive line, they haven't I don't think, done enough to really cure that situation. Every single quarterback on their roster got injured. For God's sake, they signed Jordan Palmer off the street. He started a game. So when you look at it that way, Zach Mettenberger's not the most mobile guy. For a quarterback to win with the Tennessee Titans, it's going to have to be someone who can improvise and make plays, I think, using his feet. And so in that sense, Mariota has the better appeal or the better allure, as long as they let Marcus Mariota be who he is. And they've said that they will. I'll have to believe it. I'll have to see it to believe it.
Of course,
because, they had Jake Locker on the roster. It was very well known that Ken Wisenhunt didn't want Jake Locker and didn't want him to be a running quarterback. So,
Titans coaches and quarterbacks, they should watch that.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that the system that he was in, meaning Mariota, or as Roger Goodell says, Marioti,
that was so funny.
that was very funny. Wait, what?
He called him to apologize.
Well, that was very nice. At least he did that.
You guys, I've got a funny Roger Goodell story to tell you before we get out of here tonight.
Oh, go ahead, tell it.
All right, so I got to Chicago when I flew in early Wednesday morning, and the first event was an NFL Play 60 event where they were. I didn't know this at the time. I don't think anybody really knew. They announced an expansion to the program, and it was a big deal. It turned out to be a much bigger deal than we expected, and we got to talk to the guys and everything. But they had what was called a sweetness simulator, and I've actually got video on it if you want to go check out my photo bucket. But at the sweetness simulator, it was like this zero gravity thing, and Jarrett Payton and Roger Goodell were the first two to try it out. And Jarrett Payton did a great job with it. He was Roger Goodell bit the dust the first time he tried it. Just absolutely fell right on his head. Of course, they're wearing the hat, the equipment and everything. But I have to say, he was a trooper about it. And he got. I mean, it was It was a funny moment. He bit it hard. And then
Was he in his suit and tie while he was doing this?
he was not in a suit and tie. He was dressed much more casually. But he got back up there and he tried it again and he did a bit. It was nice to see Roger Goodell acting human. It really was. It was a nice moment.
Well, that's good.
That is.
Very nice. As long as I have my suit and tie.
So, yeah.
Oh goodness. Oh goodness. But that's good. But okay, so yeah, so Mariota, do you think that the system that he was in Oregon, do you think that that's going to translate well to the Titans? Because I know that that's been a big concern of everybody's, and that was the big talk before the draft. But what do you think from what you've seen?
Well, from what they've said, it's not going to be because they've said that they're going to adapt their system to fit him and his strengths and what he brings to the table. So as long as they do that, I don't think that it will be a detriment to him. And he's been working very hard. Marcus Mariota has been working very hard to get better under center, but as other people have pointed this out too, the Titans operated out of the shotgun a lot last year. I would guesstimate that they operated out of the shotgun probably about 75% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that it's as big a concern as it might be if they were trying to make him into that Zach Mettenberger, stand in the pocket, don't use your feet, drop back, sling it kind of quarterback. So I guess we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's at this point, it's all such conjecture because you never really know too much until they get to camp and see how it actually works. So it's always kind of fun to speculate sometimes, but then after a minute, you're just like, okay, let's get to some games. Let's get to training camp and see what's going on. Now, my other question was, I want to say, speculation. How much of it do you think is like media agent driven or just actual, what potentially could happen based on fact? Because I mean, every year when it comes to the draft, there's always these huge rumors about, who's going to go number one, who's going to make the trades and stuff like that. And then 9 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10, when the draft does come around, you don't see a lot of excitement, a lot of trades and things like that. How much do you think is actual conjecture and speculation, and how much do you think is actual just truth and just facts? Does that make sense? Okay, cool.
I'll start real quick, and I know she's nodding. I know she's got. There's a lot of misinformation. I, for one, never put any stock whatsoever into the Phillip Rivers trade rumors. I think that was complete and utter bullshit. There was absolutely nothing to it. So I think that there is a lot of misinformation out there, and so.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Michelle, what about you?
I think it's a lot of both. People stir the pot. People say things just to get people rolling. I mean, that happens during the draft, happens during free agency. I call that the Michael Jackson effect. He was very good at just creating controversy for us to talk about when it wasn't nowhere near the truth. This is the things that happen during the draft. But that's what makes it exciting for the fans because we get all caught up into all of those rumors. It gives the media something to keep talking about and everybody to get anticipated, get us arguing on Twitter when there's no fact to what we even talking about. That's what makes it exciting. So.
That is true. The back and forth on Twitter. Fan base is going at it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Even just the division amongst the fan bases itself, because I saw that a lot last year with the whole trading up for Sammy Watkins thing that was going around here in Detroit. I mean, and that was real. And the thing that, Sammy Watkins didn't help his cause at all either by tweeting pictures and, having his name on Lions jerseys and stuff like that. I mean, wow, that was a lot of conjecture, a lot of just, hang on a sec, guys, but the fan base was at each other because half of us won. It was interesting. It was fun, too. not so fun. What about you, Reggie? What do you think?
I think what it comes down to is the league. The league enjoys it. They enjoy the conjecture by a lot of folks, and I think it gives. Let's face it, the NFL essentially has basically two channels or two networks that are completely dedicated to the 2 months leading to the draft.
Mm-hmm.
That's ESPN and that's the NFL Network.
Mm-hmm.
So they're also selling a product and keeping themselves in the news.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's no problem with the fact that a lot of the GMs and scouts and all these different people just lie just to give somebody something to talk about. And I think half of it is just, with all due respect to the different scouts and different pundits all over the world, I think part of it is also just people in front offices being like, let me give him something so I can get him off the phone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're talking about trading for Mariota. Yeah, we got the 20th pick and we got Tom Brady at quarterback. But, yeah, let's think about it. Yeah, we're thinking about it.
Well, and you know the league doesn't mind because there's no such thing as bad publicity, right?
Yeah, not at all.
And the league is going to benefit from all that buzz.
What was that, Michelle?
I say not during the off season. As long as they keep us talking about football, they're doing good.
Exactly. Exactly. And that just is the genius that is the NFL. And, and here we are. I mean, in the middle of May, beginning of May, talking NFL. So, yeah, it works. It works. And does it drive you nuts? Sometimes it does, I think, leading up to it. And sometimes, since the draft has been pushed back, it's just adding more fuel to the fire. But ratings have been high and very good. So essentially we love it. But, it's the conjecture that helps bring us all in and keeps us coming back. So it's a good thing in a way, I guess, for the most part.
It is for the league. Watch it.
What?
It's a good thing for the league because everybody watches.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And, they stretch it out for those 3 days. And like you said, Reggie, it's kind of, in my mind, I think 3 days might be a little bit long. But in the NFL's mind, there are diehards that are watching and that are tuned in and, all that good stuff. I mean, we do.
I wonder how much the viewership was this year for the third day. I haven't seen the numbers on that. I'm sure it's probably good for the first 2 days, but I do wonder how well that third day does.
I just personally don't see why they get more than 5 minutes for the first round. I don't get it. Like, the number one pick, it should take you 30 seconds. You've had 4 months.
Exactly.
So somebody might make a trade call. Who cares?
The top 10 picks should get 1 minute. And then after that, you add more time.
I agree.
I mean, seriously, they know. I mean, you pretty much know the top 10. You know who you're going to get. And if that person, you already have that second place. But after that, then you put more time on it.
I mean,
then you add more time to that. But what about those trades that do happen in the top 10? Do they know? Like,
but come on the air announcing the first. Welcome to the draft. With the Tampa Bay Jameis Winston.
Exactly. Tennessee's on the clock. That's how it should work. Exactly. I'm like, why are we waiting for Tampa Bay to pick Jameis? We already know that's who they're picking.
They should have the play clock in the background going. Yeah. And if it takes longer than the 35 seconds, delay a game. Delay a draft penalty. You lose a pick and $10,000. Okay, that's a little bit much, but still.
When Mario number one over Reggie Bush, and they took 13 and a half to announce the pick, but he had already signed a contract.
Oh, with Reggie Bush when he was drafted? Is that what you were saying? Yeah, I don't know. There are ways to speed it up, I think. And like you said, I mean, 9 times out of 10, everybody knows who they're taking. So, yeah, let's keep it moving. Let's go.
It's the first. Let's go, man. Nobody got time for that. Nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Time for that.
Oh, good.
Jesus, there's a fire.
But yes, I was about to say, but we still love it. But you're right, though. I don't think there's any reason why it needs to last for 3 hours. Come on. And do we need the analysis after every single pick? I don't think so. But that's just me. I mean, again, we already know why they're being taken and what they're being taken for. And we already have looked at their upside 8 million times this Sunday. So, yeah, it should be just let's keep it moving. Kind of like in baseball. I think they're saying that they've shaved off some time in baseball. But that's another story for another day.
Because they use all their time between pitches.
But there's a clock now, I heard. And that has helped, they say. At least that's what they said. But like I said, that's another story for another day. So, I had a quick question, too, while I was thinking about it and getting our hot topics ready. My one question is Brett Hundley. He got drafted by the Green Bay Packers, and obviously he ain't starting anytime soon because Michelle's boo is going to be there for a while. Do you like what they did there? Do you think that that's probably how it should be instead of places like Cleveland, like Buffalo, throwing their new starters out right away and getting them killed, and now they're possibly not even in the league? Do you think that that's kind of just more of a telling on the Browns part for just being crappy drafters, or what do you think? Does that make sense again?
I think a function, and you got to follow me here for a second because it's going to take a second for me to get this explained.
Okay, go ahead.
I think it's a function of teams in the league actually miscalculating, and here's what I mean. In the past, we saw more quarterbacks get the proverbial, well, he's going to wait a year or two. Well, that's fine when I think that's a better formula for now than it was 10 years ago. And the reason for that is 10 years ago, you had guys getting $40 and $50 million guaranteed for being a first-round pick. Now, when you know you're not going to pay a quarterback any more than $18 million or whatever it is over 4 or 5 years, it actually makes more financial and fiscal sense to take a guy like granted, Hundley's a little bit later in the draft, but it makes more financial and fiscal sense to take a quarterback that you're going to have to develop and let him sit for 2 or 3 years in a later round or even in the first round because you don't have to lock yourself up with so much money to him. So I actually love the pick because, in theory, I think Aaron Rodgers has probably 5 or 6 years left, maybe more. Probably more, right? So Hundley's situation might be a little different. But in an instance of a place like, and I'm going to use this is not the greatest example, but I'm going to do it anyway. If you look at a place like Denver or you look at a place like New England, if you draft a guy now, Brady got 3 more years max, Manning maybe 2, depending, could be his last, who knows. If you do it in a place like that, it makes even more sense because I'm going to say it right now. Even with Andrew Luck, I was saying, do you really think Andrew Luck is going to lose something by sitting in meetings next to Peyton Manning for a year?
Probably not. Probably not. He would have a really good guy go to.
And Brett Hundley is not going to lose anything by sitting in meetings next to Aaron Rodgers for the next 3 years.
I agree. I like that. I like your answer. That's a very good answer. So you think that Peyton should have stayed in Indiana and let Andrew? I mean, and if that had happened, wow! Just think about how awesome Andrew Luck could have potentially even been. I mean, he's great now, but learning under Peyton, I think that might have really been interesting and amazing and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have had an issue with it if Irsay had chose to go about it that way. And of course, everybody's saying, well, you can't let Andrew Luck sit. Why can't you?
You can if he's sitting behind Peyton Manning. But if he, yeah, you can if he's sitting behind Peyton Manning. You know, of course he can sit.
Right.
Right. But if you get rid of Peyton Manning but you did a decent job of drafting Andrew Luck, so of course you're gonna let him start and let him go. So that's right. Michelle, what do you think about it? Do you like that style of drafting and letting him sit for a while?
I do. I mean, most people say today that nobody learns by sitting down. I mean, Deion Sanders says that almost every day. You don't learn by sitting down. Well, some people do. And for quarterbacks, I think the position is different than playing cornerback. In the quarterback, I mean, those guys go from a college system with a playbook about that big, and then they get one in the NFL, and it's huge. I mean, they have so much more to learn, and all of them are not ready, and that's why you keep seeing situations now where we're getting these quarterbacks out there, we're pushing them in there, we're making them play because we picked them in the first round or second round, and then they have one good year, and then that's it because they have not developed yet. But some of them are in positions where they have to start because the quarterback before them was no good. But if you get them in the right situation, like Aaron Rodgers, he might have been ready to play when he was drafted, but they had Brett Favre. So, I mean, did he lose anything by sitting down? As Reggie said, did he lose anything by sitting there learning from Brett Favre? No. He probably got better. I mean, and I know that sounds crazy, but I'm sure he learned a whole lot from sitting there than having to have his growing pains on the field, which is what we see. And that's like Mariota. I think he's going to be – I see his situation the same as RG3, where they're going to tailor the offense to fit his needs. Well, that's only going to last for so long because in the NFL, the thing that they do well on defense is they make adjustments, and they're going to make adjustments whatever he's doing, and then he's going to have to come back and play football the way it's supposed to be played. He's going to have to come back and play the way Wisenhoff, the coach that they hired, they know what they were getting when they got him, and that's the kind of offense that he runs. That you just don't change overnight as a coach after you've been doing it for years, and all of a sudden now you're going to run and shoot. I know that's an old school term, but then that's what you're going to play. So I think sometimes these quarterbacks, just because you pick them, it's not like they're getting the Sam Bradford money. You know, they don't get that anymore. So you can sit them down, let them sit for a year or two, if you have a quarterback that's decent enough to start.
And I think the other piece of that, to your point, is, you know, while all this is going on, the one thing we continue to forget is we are in an age where all the money is public and everybody is screaming, I got to get to the second contract as soon as possible. And that's in the NBA and in the NFL. So what's the general consensus, too, that we're forgetting? A lot of these guys are not ready yet. A lot of these guys were a 2-year starter in some offense in their high school in which the coach let them pitch it around the yard. They threw for 8,000 yards in 2 years. Then they go to college, pitch it around for 3 years. They throw for 9,000 yards in 3 years, and they go to the NFL. And it goes back to what Pete Carroll said about Mark Sanchez. You got to have enough snaps.
Right.
And sometimes it's not even. How many snaps have you had in your life?
That's a very good question.
And I say the same thing. I have this argument all the time in North Carolina about Cam Newton. As good of a season as he had, Cam Newton played 1 year in college. That's it. He played that one season, and then he came to the NFL. So he's learning a lot of the things. You can see him. You can watch him and see that he still has a whole lot to learn to be the quarterback that he wants to be. And granted, if somebody failed in the draft, I would say Carolina Panthers. I'm just going backwards now because they don't address their needs on offense anyway to help. But, I just think Cam Newton has a lot to learn because he probably is one of those quarterbacks that maybe needed to sit. But, he has such great talent. It would have been hard to sit him down. And they had no one, they had no one in front of him that could carry the team.
Sharona, what do you think?
Well, I think that with the new rookie contracts, well, first of all, I agree. Most of these young quarterbacks are going to teams that they're not settled at the quarterback position. Let's just put it that way. And so they're going into a situation where the team has largely sucked before they got there. There's probably not an established quarterback. So, you've got a fan base that wants to win. You've got coaching staff that needs to win. You've got a young guy that's probably better than what you've got, for the simple reason that he's new and he's fresh and not worn down by all the problems that the team has undergone before that. And then you've got these new rookie contracts that basically dictate that these teams have to, they have to decide. That third year is so crucial now. They have to know before that third year what they have, because there's that clock is ticking for them to make a decision on whether or not they're going to pick up those options. And so there are a lot of forces, I think, at work here that dictate that these guys are going. The days of Aaron Rodgers sitting for 3 years behind Brett Favre, they're just gone. We're never going to see that again, unless there's a change to the CBA.
Particularly those who are picked in the first and second rounds. But
Exactly.
Yeah. Those those are probably your better players, the ones that are picked in the later rounds that sit for a minute. They come out to be the players that that make things happen for you.
Yeah, but for those guys too, they're largely going to run the scout teams. There are very few Zach Mettenbergers out there who get picked in the 6th round with a coach who thinks that they're possibly the guy, right? I mean, most of your later round quarterbacks are going to run the scout teams and emulate whoever it is that they're facing week to week. And they're not going to get that grooming and that attention that the other guys will get.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Sonja? I think we lost Sonja.
Go ahead, Sharona. Take it over.
All right. Well, what's our next hot topic? Let's see what else do we have on the agenda here. All right. Well, you know what? I think that we've covered the quarterback situation. What do you guys think? Michelle, did you pick your winners and losers yet? And what is, I'm curious, is Randy Gregory, was he your favorite draft pick, or did you have somebody else that you liked as well or better?
I like the Randy Gregory pick because he fell towards that number 60. I mean, you can't go wrong there. But I like the first pick that we needed to address our front end and our back end on defense, and that's what we did. We didn't address the defensive tackle, but we addressed the defensive ends we needed, cornerback, safety we need. So we were able to address that part of the draft. Byron Jones was he was probably one of the better ones that was available when we picked. I mean, we picked late in each round. We picked 27th in the first round. We picked 60th in the second round. So the picks that we have, I was pretty satisfied with them. Of course, the Gregory pick, I mean, you're talking about a guy that was a top, first rounder, could have gone in the top 10. Who knows where he would have gone had he not failed the drug test. But when you get that caliber of pick, and if he can keep his head on right, I mean, that's the steal of the draft. So I was happy with what we were able to get. A couple of defensive linemen. We were able to get some linebackers, which we need, being that Sean may be hurt as always, Sean Lee, and we lost some of our linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
So of course we picked up a couple of more offensive linemen. Yes, everybody is concerned that we didn't get an running back, but I don't know. I think you guys been following me enough that I was always happy with the running with the running backs that we had. I always liked Joseph Randall. He was always my favorite, even when DeMarco was there. He was my favorite back. but I still think that there's somebody out there that we're still going to get.
Mhm.
But I'm okay with the draft. I was happy with what we did. I think we addressed the areas that we needed to address.
Who are some of the guys that fell out of the draft that you guys were surprised about, that didn't get drafted but got picked up as undrafted free agents?
I think Green Bay once again won in that category, and I'll get to my winner in a second because I think it's going to surprise y'all.
Okay.
I think Green Bay got a good one in the kid Jimmy Hunt, the receiver out of Missouri. That understands how to get himself open. He understands route structure and combinations. He gets in and out of breaks well. I think he's going to be a good fit up there in that offense, especially the way they use multiple receivers and spread the football around.
All right. Who's your winner then?
Shock! I'm gonna tell you, this is gonna shock y'all.
All right.
I
Ready?
love the Jacksonville Jaguars draft.
Okay.
Say, Jack, do it.
Doesn't surprise me. I thought they had a good draft last
I was
year.
about to say, that doesn't really surprise me, though.
They had a great draft. Yeah.
Understand that they've got a young quarterback. So what did they do? They go and get a guy like Rashad Green that is reliable and is going to catch the football. In addition to that, what do? They go and get a big kid, Neil Sterling, out of Monmouth in the 7th round. Let me tell you something about this kid. 240, runs a 4.6. That is
That's falling for a big guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
the speed, but again, they've got Allen Robinson, they've got the kid Hearns, they've got other pieces. I'm still, and I don't think he's coming back, but unless they get Blackman back, they still don't have a number one. But I feel like this organization right now, they got a whole lot of number twos and a whole lot of number threes. And you know what? If you can put 3 number twos on the field, yeah, you don't have a one, but who you gonna double? So I love that.
I think Allen Robinson. I'm gonna disagree. I think Allen Robinson can be a number one, and no matter. I mean, they still got Marcus Lee, even though
Marcus Lee
hadn't been looking all that good for him.
They need to put weapons around this kid, and I'm gonna tell you right now, that kid they got in the 4th round, Rashad Sample out of Louisville, that's a bad boy at the safety position. You mark it down. I'm saying it right now. These 5 career. He can go.
Louisville had a bunch of draft selections this year, like 10, I think. That's a nice haul.
Mm-hmm.
I think T.J. Yeldon was a good pickup for Jacksonville too, to help that running game. And nothing helps a rookie quarterback or a quarterback than a good running game. Go back to RG3's only good year that he had. The running back ran for 1,400 yards, and people forget that. And he was great. They had a good running game. Look at, we talk about Mariota and talking about him running. If you don't have a running game, well, they're just sitting there waiting for you to do that. So you're going to have to throw that ball. But in RG's case, he had a running back that had put up 1,400 yards in that same season, which made it a lot easier for him.
And Dante Fowler is going to be a force, I think, in Gus Bradley's system, because similar to what he did, move all over the field and just go make plays.
That was a great pick.
It was a great pick. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. Mm-hmm.
They've had 2 good drafts, I think.
And
They really have.
2 pretty good drafts, so that's good.
Uniform, so I can't really talk about Jacksonville that much. I swear those uniforms look like they play in NFL Europe or something.
Well, don't say that too loud, because they just might.
Went in the locker room and spray
Knock on
painted all
wood. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you guys. Well, the hour always goes by so fast, and we covered a lot of ground, but yeah.
Yes. Draft!
Good draft.
It was an interesting draft. Very interesting draft.
camp to start now, that's all.
Exactly.
Right around the corner.
Yep. They are. I want to say rookie mini. Some rookie mini caps are getting going pretty soon, huh?
Yeah.
right?
Well, most teams have gone through OTAs, so yeah, all teams have gone through OTAs. So rookie camps and all kinds of stuff. Won't be long now.
No, yay. Well,
all right.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on, and forgive me, I was moving my foot and I kicked my power button. It's very sensitive. I did not realize how sensitive it was.
With sensitivity.
Michelle with the songs. Well, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Reggie, for coming to join me and Sharona. We appreciate it, as always. We loved your takes, as always. Again, why don't you tell everybody where we can find you? We'll start with you, Michelle.
You can find me on NFLfemale.com, Dallas Cowboy fan reporter. Also, you can check out my picks for the week once the season starts. And you can find me on Twitter at the Sports Jinks. Holla at me.
Holla at your girl. Reggie, why don't you tell everybody where we can find you? And thank you again for coming to join us. As always, we love having you on.
It's always a pleasure. You find me on Twitter at rwalk13, K13. I'm always available via the Twitter sphere. Hit that follow button. Don't be scared. Don't be shook. And
don't be scared.
Oh goodness, you guys are so funny. I love you guys. All right. And I am Sonja. I'm the official fan reporter for the Detroit Lions for NFL Female. You can catch me on NFLfemale.com. I will put my review up for the draft in a couple days. You can also find me over at agoodsportshang.com, writing about any and all sports. You can find me and a whole bunch of other people over there too. So make sure you check them out. Yeah, so I'm excited. And Sharona.
All right. Thanks again to Michelle and to Reggie for joining us tonight. I'm Sharona. I'm the official NFL fan reporter for NFL Female. Be sure to jump on our website, www.nflfemale.com, and check out all the great articles. We'll be back next week with another great show. I think I told you this, but you can follow me on Twitter at Sports by Sharona and catch me every Monday and Wednesday on Back Talk with Sharona. Tomorrow's our gaming episode, our gaming show. I'm excited about that. Michelle's been on. Michelle was on with me not too long ago. That was a great show, and I need to have my girl Sonja back on. And Reggie, you gotta come talk to us too. Shout out to Liz, of course, as always, for whom this is all possible. You have been tuned in to the Zone Blitz. We'll be back next week. Have a very pleasant evening, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Deuces.